welcome to Sunny with a Chance of Chaos, a podcast that is equal parts optimistic and realistic. Join me as we navigate the ups and downs that everyday life brings. I'm Lindsay, and I'm so glad you're here. So, get a coffee, get comfy, and get ready for a little bit of life's chaos. Oh, hey there! Here we are together again on Sunny with a Chance of Chaos. I have two fun bits of news to cover before we get into the hot topic of self-care. First of all, I announced this exciting thing at the end of episode 3, but for those of you who missed it, the podcast is now on Instagram. So jump on and find and follow me at Sunny with a Chance of Chaos _ for new episode alerts, posts that are proof of sunshine amongst the chaos, and sometimes probably just chaos itself. Secondly, I have a follow-up story for you from episode 1. A listener named Sarah reached out to tell me her own personal lesson in toxic positivity. Here she is.
Hey, Lindsay. Thanks so much for sharing your podcast with me. I'm so happy that I was able to listen to the first few. And actually, there was something that really resonated with me on the first one about toxic positivity. And it happened just a few short weeks ago. I was on the phone with my younger brother who's studying school in the UK. And he was having a really rough day, and he was on placement where he was teaching some of his students, and it was just one of those days where everything seemed to be piling up or going wrong. And so he was kind of unloading a little bit. And it was funny because in our conversation, there was a little bit of a pause where I was gearing up to, give him a solution to all of his problems. And I was ready to give him a kind of a positive spin on things. And I didn't get a chance to, because before I was about to speak, he actually just said, "You know what? Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to me. That's all I needed." Sometimes people are so quick to want to offer advice or a solution, and sometimes all I need is just someone to listen. If I want advice, I'll ask for it. And so it was just really funny because as soon as he said that, I closed my mouth real quick and I just said, "Of course, you're welcome." What a learning moment that was for me as someone who is constantly, as a part of my job is literally to help people solve their problems or solve their issues. So it was just such a learning moment for me. And I don't even think it was until I listened to your podcast that I connected the toxic positivity that I was about to impose on him. So thank you so much. I love what you're doing, and I cannot wait to hear what you have in store.
Thanks so much for reaching out, Sarah. I love hearing from my listeners and friends and members of the chaos community. It's amazing to hear how the themes of the podcast show up for you in your own lives. Like, keep it coming. It's so awesome. Okay, on to self-care. This episode topic came as a request from another listener who was interested in learning more about the concept of self-care and about self-love. She writes, "Hey Lindsay, self-care sounds like it should just be easy, but when I break it down, physical, social, mental, emotional, and spiritual care, I can't remember a time where these were all in alignment. Furthermore, I'm not even certain how to align all of these components to self-care. Most of the time, none of these are a focus in my life. Reflecting on who I am, I've spent my entire adult life with a constant desire to support others, and as a result, my self-care has taken a back seat. And at some points when life has had everything happening all at once, my self-care has been left on the side of the road. Thankfully, for the past 27 years of my journey, I've made it this far and in one piece because I've had an incredible life partner who's devoted to taking care of me when I'm not doing a good job of taking care of myself. Recently, I've run out of steam trying to take care of everything, and I was feeling lost. Who am I? What makes me happy? How do I get to a place of peace with myself? I have a few answers to these questions, but just by asking these questions, I at least know that I'm making positive steps to learn how to put my life and me back in the front seat. I can't wait to hear your thoughts and insights on this one, Lindsay. I can't tell you how grateful I am for your questions and your courage to tell us a piece of your story. Thank you so much. Do these words sound hauntingly familiar to anyone else? At some point or another, we've all lost sight of taking care of ourselves, whether it be because we're focused on our kids, or our aging parents, or education, maybe a busy career, or financial concerns. Whatever the reason, we all need to remember to put ourselves in the front seat again. So, how do we do that? Let's figure this out together. So, what is self care and why is it important? Self care is formally defined as one of two things: the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health, or the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well being and happiness, in particular during periods of stress. Okay, so both of these definitions ring true to me in the most literal sense of the word, but I actually want to spend some time this episode breaking down what self care actually is and what society likes to tell us it is, because in actuality, they're very, very different. Actions of self care can come in many iterations. However, social media and consumption culture like to tell us that self care looks like buying things, maybe spa treatments, new products, treat foods, eating out for dinner or ordering in for dinner, indulging cocktails, massage appointments. Do you remember Treat Yourself Day from Parks and Rec? It's kind of like that. Now, it's very, very possible that some of the things I listed there are self care for some of you, and indeed, some of them are for me as well. One of my small indulgences, I've only done it twice, mind you, but oh my goodness, it's so much fun, is to order movie theater popcorn to my door. No joke, that is a thing you can do now. And it's a worthwhile treat once in a while for a popcorn junkie. Also, I do use massage as a method of self care for relaxation and injury recovery. However, spending money on treats and treatments is usually a temporary fix for whatever is ailing me. And I end up feeling a little bit guilty for spending that much money on something so frivolous. Companies and retailers want us to believe that these are the right solutions, the only solutions actually to self care, because it increases sales and it keeps the money rolling in. And I don't blame them. We all have to put food on the table, right? So often these fixes are temporary fixes. They don't provide long lasting feelings of compassion and care towards ourselves. So, what kinds of self care can we participate in that will have a more lasting effect and won't result in a $250 spa bill? Here are 5 self care strategies that you can start using right now. Number 1, figure out what fills your energy stores. Seek it out when you feel yourself going low. Are you introverted or are you extroverted? That means, do you gain energy from being around lots of people or from spending time on your own? What does a recharge look like for you? Learn that about yourself, and then you can start to understand where to turn, either inward or outward, when your batteries start running low. Number 2, do self care activities that feel natural to you, not like extra work. For example, for many people, going to the gym, working out, or running would be a great method of self care. That endorphin rush, the feeling of accomplishment. For me, going for a run is actually a form of like self punishment. I really hate it. Point being, don't do the thing that people say is good self care. Do the thing that actually feels like self care to you. It's going to be wildly different for everyone, but just listen to your body. If doing the self care feels draining, it's probably counterproductive. Number 3, set boundaries. Learn how to say no to stuff you don't want to do or to the things you don't have extra time for. This will greatly reduce the strain on your free time, and it will provide more opportunities for you to do the things I listed in tips 1 and 2. I have said no a few times to that Sunday night patio drinks and dinner because it meant getting in some time to myself for a tubby and a good book before I hit the ground running on Monday morning. It's hard to say no to the things that you love, but maybe it's a little bit easier to say no to the things you don't enjoy. I received as a birthday gift many, many years ago a keychain that reads, "Stop saying yes to shit you hate." It's meant to be funny, and it is. It makes me laugh as it dangles in my rearview mirror. But even more so, it's a daily reminder that saying no to the things that don't fill you up is a truly authentic and effective form of self care. Number four, take time for your hobbies and your creative outlets. I can only speak from one perspective, my own, obviously, but I know that working moms often put lots of other people first before themselves. Usually, the thing that falls to the bottom of the list is that journal entry you've been meaning to get at, that novel or knitting project you started, that song you've been learning on guitar. Our brains and nervous systems are so positively affected and centered by creative endeavors that pique our curiosity and set our soul on fire. And when we don't provide time for these, there's no opportunity for that release and growth in those areas. And this can cause irritability and frustration and boredom and lethargy. So take the time to make that new recipe or maybe record a podcast. I don't know. Number five, lastly, take care of your body. There is much evidence out there to suggest a very prominent mind body connection. And this means when your body functioning goes offline, so does your energy and spirit. So I'm going to say that lame thing they've been telling us for years: drink lots of water, eat healthy food, move your body, get enough sleep. And you're like, boring, Lindsay, this is old news. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still true. Sorry, everyone. It's true. For the record, I also strongly encourage you to drink the sangria and order the nachos. This is also its own form of self care. Just take care of your body. The rest of you, mind, body, and spirit, will thank you for it. Our listener continued her story with some of her own personal self care strategies, and she writes, I'm learning to set a personal goal for myself each day that gives my mind and body some exercise. And I'm focusing on finding more quiet moments in my late day to pause and appreciate the gifts I received in that day, the things I would perhaps otherwise have taken for granted. Most importantly, I'm learning to let the need to always do for others go. While it's been incredibly gratifying to always be there for my friends and colleagues, I'm now discovering that I have two hands, one for helping others and one for helping myself. I adapted that quote from Maya Angelou. These are great suggestions here from our listener. Thank you so much. That's awesome. There's also a huge, big, mysterious topic of self love that we can look at. What is the difference between self care and self love? Self love is defined as having a high regard for one's own well being and happiness. So, in my mind, self love is the feeling that's achieved from doing appropriate, effective, and long lasting self care. And they're interconnected. In a way, meaningful self care is proof that we love ourselves. Beyond just having high regard for one's happiness, I do believe that self love is simply just loving the shit out of yourself and all your beautifully perfect uniqueness. Sometimes it's just a simple question of, how can I love myself just as I am in this moment right now? Positive self talk is a big part of self love. Talking down to yourself or insulting yourself is a great way to diminish your self respect, your self image, your confidence, your overall sense of well being. Maybe you wish you had less gray hair. Maybe you hate the way your nose curves. Maybe you feel like you could afford to lose 10 pounds. Maybe there are things you would change about yourself, and you're allowed to not like various things about yourself. However, you are required, yes, I said required, to love the sum of all of your parts regardless. It's imperative that we love ourselves and offer kindness to ourselves so that we can show up for and love our people fully too. We can't love our people properly without first loving ourselves. This mismatch results in all kinds of disasters, allowing people to walk all over you, being short with or rude to them, or just not having the bandwidth to show up for them. When we put self love first, love for others follows much more easily. We all mess up sometimes. After all, to err is human, right? I don't know who said that, but it sounds fancy, so I'm leaving it in. Self love also presents itself as forgiveness and grace and patience when we make mistakes or hurt someone else. Remember my friend Jay from episode 2? She taught me about comparative suffering. She's also very good at reminding her friends to love ourselves. Whenever one of us is hard on ourselves, she'll say, "Oh, would you ever speak to me like that?" And I always say, "No, I wouldn't." And she says, "Then please don't speak to my friend Lindsay that way." And it makes me smile every time. And it brings my attention to the way I'm speaking to myself. Learning to forgive ourselves, learn from our errors, and move forward with grace is the ultimate act of self love. So, the next time you forget to pay for your kids' hot lunch before the deadline, yep, been there. Set the alarm for 7 p.m. instead of 7 a.m. I did that last week. Or hurt someone's feelings unintentionally. I have definitely done that before. Please remember, be kind to yourself and offer the same type of compassion and patience to your own heart that you would offer to that of your friends. There have been periods for me as well where self care has taken a backseat in my life. I recall a time recently where things got really heavy. I was under a lot of pressure in a few different areas of my life. And because of the busyness and the chaos, I wasn't making time for proper self care at all. Not even like a quick stretch in the morning or a short walk before dinner, like nothing. I remember feeling like I was being pulled into pieces. There just wasn't enough Lindsay bandwidth to go around. And then the smallest, most ridiculous thing put me over the edge. I walked into the bathroom after one of my kids had finished up their shower, and the floor was completely flooded. He had left the shower curtain outside the tub instead of inside the tub. It's honestly such a small yet big problem. This was the final straw. I lost it. I literally, not figuratively, literally started beating my head against the wall in frustration. And as I'm sure you can all discern, my reaction had little to nothing to do with the water on the floor and everything to do with the fact that the final tiny thread that was holding together my calm and my grounding had been snipped. I had simply run out of steam. Due to a long term absence of self care, I was able to pull myself together enough to explain to the kids why I was upset. It really didn't have anything to do with the water. It's a simple mistake. I then forgave myself for being human. I promptly took a mental health day the next day and I hit the reset button. My self care routine has been much more consistent since that incident. I journal almost every day. Sometimes it's just storytelling about inconsequential events, and sometimes it's emotional processing and unpacking. Either way, it's a great outlet. I read, I write, I walk, I stretch, I say no to shit I hate as much as I can. I let go of the things that don't serve me throughout the day. I lean hard on my friends when I need to. I get as much sunshine as I can. And this all serves to keep me centered and grounded and cared for by me. And most importantly, it makes me more available to manage bathroom floods without beating my head against the wall. I have finally settled on a name for the resource section. Welcome to the stacks. It's the term for like the main bookshelves in a library, and I really like it. And it's way better than the resource section lame name. I'm going to break my pattern of research based in nonfiction for a minute here and go more of an artistic route for the book I chose. Rupi Kaur is a poet and performer who writes beautiful poetry in and around themes of self love and healing and acceptance. She wrote Milk and Honey, The Sun and Her Flowers, and Homebody. And any of her collections of work would be a lovely place to escape to learn more on self care. The podcast I picked is Self Care is Sexy with Chris Braylon. The heading basically explains itself. She covers everything from how to generate self-worth to self-care when you really don't feel like it. The video I found is an awesome TED Talk by Susanna Winters. It's titled Self-Care, What It Really Is. She's funny, engaging, and real, and has some excellent strategies for self-care that will leave you feeling revitalized, I'm sure of it. Lastly, we reach our gratitude section. It is, in fact, the antidote for chaos. I want to thank our listener for sharing her story and for inspiring me to create an episode around this increasingly important topic of self-care. I have so much gratitude and appreciation for the people who are showing up for themselves day after day, doing the hard work of caring for themselves, even when it seems as though there aren't enough minutes in the day to even think about it. This week, I challenge you to find one new way to show yourself some love and care. And when you do, I want to hear about it. So send me a note, and your brilliance could be featured on the next episode. Thanks for being here, and don't forget to find me on Instagram. And as always, when the chaos hits, which it inevitably will, don't forget to turn your face towards the sun.